If there was no one to judge you, would you make different choices? Why make choices in your life based on what everyone else thinks is best for you? What about trusting your intuition and just going with what you think? Everyone has the power to make inspired choices. Get ready to listen, share, and experience the creativity that is you. Now, here's the host of Inspired Choices, intuitive life coach, Christine McIver.
Oh my goodness, here we are. Welcome everyone thank you so much for tuning in to Inspired Choices. This is a new adventure for me, and wow, I'm so emotional. Woo! This is good. You know, have you ever had a time in your life when you kept putting a dream out there and it suddenly came to be? Well, woo! Welcome to my dream. Wow, okay. This is going to pass in a second. I'll be okay. I'm so excited, and I'm a little nervous. You know, it's kind of like when you think you can do something, and then when you say yes, and you go, oh my goodness, what did I just say? Well, that's kind of where I'm living right now, but I know I'm fine, and I know I've got lots of amazing people here with me today, and I'm really excited to get moving. This actually reminds me of one of my favorite plaques I have in my home, and I just want to share that with you right now. And this is what it says. When you come to the edge of all the light you have known and are about to step out into the darkness, faith is knowing one of two things will happen. There will be something to stand on, or you will be taught how to fly. Well, I guess I'm flying right now. Has anybody ever experienced that before? You think you want something, and then you make that choice, and then you're like, whoo. Well, you know what I know? I know when I make a choice, and I feel good about it, and I get excited, it's the right choice. And sometimes it's just a matter of stepping forward and moving through your fear. And before you know it, you're on the path, and you're starting to feel better. And it starts to come together. So thank you, everyone, for joining me. And, you know, my hope is that you'll find some answers here to help lead you forward in your life. So let me tell you a little bit about me. I live right now in Guelph, Ontario, Canada, and today it's a little muggy, a little overcast, but it's been one of our hottest summers. It's a wonderful place where I'm at. I was born and raised just outside of Stratford, which is about 45 minutes from here, and if you're not familiar with either of those, that is about an hour outside of Toronto. So that's where I'm coming from. And I hope wherever you're at, you're having a great day and you're enjoying yourself, and you're going to get ready to learn a little bit about what it means to make choices that inspire your life. The choice really is yours. Whether you are in a good place or in not so good a place, the choice really is yours of how you're going to move forward. And, you know, one of the things that I truly believe, and I share with my clients all the time, is you're not a victim. You're not a victim to your life. Where you are right now, you may not have consciously chosen to be at, but you're not a victim, and you do have the power to change where you're at. It isn't as difficult as it may seem, and when you begin to take one step and then another step, before you know it, you're moving forward, and it can happen. It truly, truly can. Now, what I have found with most people and with myself as well is we get stuck, and we don't know why we're stuck. We're just really stuck, and we're really sad, or we're frustrated, and we can't understand why we can't move forward. Well, you know, one of the biggest things is identifying why you're stuck, trying to figure out what that is first. I often talk about, you know, when you're afraid of something, even if you don't know what you're afraid of, when you start to shine some light in there, you'll begin to see it more clearly, and you'll begin to take back your power because you're not a victim. You know, imagine a child who's afraid at night, afraid of the dark. One of the biggest things we do is we come in and we switch on the light. I know when my kids were little, they'd say they're afraid of the dark. Well, I'd turn on the light, or we'd look under the bed, we'd look in the closet, and they would see that there really wasn't anything there. And you know what fear stands for, and you might want to write this down, is false evidence appearing real. You know, I was nervous when we first started this call. Well, now I'm kind of getting it. I'll learn and I'll get a little bit better, but I'm not as nervous now because I kind of took that step. I shone some light in the area and now I'm moving forward. And the same thing happens with you. When you sit down and you write out, what is it I'm afraid of? You begin to identify, okay, so I can see it. It starts to take the power away. You're the one with the power, the thought, the false idea, the thing that you think is going to happen. It doesn't have as much power as you're giving it. So begin, first of all, by writing down what it is that you're afraid of. And once you do that, then you can start looking at it and saying, okay, so why am I afraid of this? What's the big thing? So you might say, I'm afraid that I'm not going to have enough money. Okay, well, I've been in that place. So I look at it. Well, what's the worst thing that can happen? Well, I don't have enough money. Well, do I have a roof over my head? Check. Do I have food in the fridge today? Check. Are my kids okay? Check. Well, those are the top 3 things that come to my mind, and if I have those, I'm okay today. When we talk about fear, we are often going into our past or we're going into our future. We're not always operating from the present moment. The thing that I often share with people is the difference between our ego and our soul. And I'm sure that many of you have heard that negative voice in your head, and I refer to that as the saboteur, or those voices, or the shadow. Well, that saboteur cannot operate in the present. It is always looking to the past and saying, yeah, but see, this is what happened before. Yeah, but see, this is what happened before. Well, that doesn't mean that that's true today. The biggest thing that you need to understand is change is going to continue. Be it good or be it bad, there's always going to be change. And when you become conscious, and this is a huge key, when you become conscious of what's going on around you, you can start to steer your life on a positive path, on a better outcome path. But if you stay locked down in fear like that child in the bed in the dark, it just kind of is overwhelming and it kind of takes all your power away. So identify what your fears are. Where are you at today? What are you holding today inside of you? Is it good? If it's good, talk about it. Say, this is how I'm feeling. This is what's going on for me. And then, why is it good? Why is it good? Well, it's good today because I started a new adventure. That's awesome. I've taken that first step. That's good. Is it still a little scary? Yeah. But I've taken that first step. So find something to identify why it is good. Why is it bad? Is there something that's really bad? Well, identify why is it bad. And sometimes when we peel it apart, it doesn't seem as challenging. And we start to step back from it and look at it from a larger perspective. When you identify what it is that you are happy about, what it is that's good, or what it is that you're dissatisfied about or afraid about, then you start to take your power back and you can look at this. And then, when you talk about what you don't want, immediately the most exciting thing happens, whether you realize it or not, is you start to identify what it is you want. So when you know what you don't want, you can identify very quickly what it is you do want. So I want you to imagine that you have a pair of binoculars, okay? And you have these pair of binoculars, and these binoculars right now are focused over on your fear or what you don't want, okay? Can you imagine that? So you're looking at that. So you're looking over at the fear, and then guess what? Oh my goodness, what's out of the corner of your eye? There it is, the thing that you do want. The thing that you do want. So now you have choice. What are you going to give your attention to? If you choose to stay focused on what you don't want, then what's going to happen is you're going to stay locked down in that fear, aren't you? But if you begin to look at what you do want more often, and you're starting on that path, and then you can begin to create the choices to move you forward. So, that's the beginning of what we're going to talk about today. I'm looking for some amazing people to call in and ask me some questions. Please don't be afraid. Come on the joyride with me. It's going to be so much fun. So when we come back, I'm going to be taking calls, and I'm also going to be taking email questions, and I hope to support you in helping you to maybe move forward and help you to figure out how you can make different choices to have a more happy and satisfying life. It's really about baby steps and taking it one step at a time. You know, if you were to jump through the hoops very, very quickly, it may not seem real. But when you take it one step at a time and you make one change a day, then before you know it, you are moving forward and moving forward. And it does not have to be overwhelming. You know, it's just like learning to walk. As I was saying to a wonderful client this morning, when your child started to walk, did they get up and just start walking automatically? And she said, no, they fell down. Okay, well, you're going to fall down, and maybe sometimes it's going to feel a little challenging. But just like you showed the child to keep walking, keep getting up, when you do that, you're going to begin to move forward easier and easier and easier, and you are going to take back the power in your life. So I hope to hear from you very soon. We're just going to cut out here in 30 seconds. I'm learning how to do this online, and it's very exciting. I can't wait to hear from you. And feel free to ask any questions. No questions are silly. No questions are wrong. And I'm opening to answering any questions that I can. And if I can't, I'll let you know that too, okay? So who's going to be my first caller? I can't wait to hear from you. All right. Well, I think they're queuing me out now. I'm not 100% sure. I'm sure some of my friends are laughing, and that's okay. So who's going to be calling me back in? I'm very excited, and I'm very excited to share more with you. So get writing your questions down, and we'll talk to you very, very soon, okay? And remember, it's not always easy to make that first step, but you might be surprised at the information that you're going to get. All right, then we'll talk to you in a few minutes.
This is Inspired Choices with intuitive life coach Christine McIver. To be a part of the program today, please, you can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Christine@inspiredchoices.ca. Now, back to the program.
Hello, everyone. Well, we had some technical difficulty, so now I'm not on another line, and I hope you can hear me better. So before we went to break, we were talking about how we can move forward in our choices. And the biggest thing that I find is the first place to start is what's wrong, what's holding you back, and what is it that you want after you follow up with that, and how do I begin to go there. Sometimes it feels overwhelming. Sometimes it feels like the day-to-day life is difficult. I've got a question here from Jackie in Guelph, and she says, in my life, I seem to see most daily choices or interactions as drudgery or exhausting, almost like everything is a goal or to get done as soon as possible. So how can I get rest or time to enjoy myself? I seem to be exhausted before I begin. This is a great question, Jackie, and one that many of us have often struggled with, I'm sure. What I have found is that the biggest thing to do is to identify what it is that you want, okay? So, yeah, daily chores is not something that, we can just say, forget it, I'm never going to do it again. There are things that we all have to do, whether we have a lot of money or not, whether we have, hired hands or not. There are things that we have to do that sometimes we don't want to. But when you identify, and this is what I find, first of all, when you identify what it is, why do you want that? So let's say, why do you want the house vacuumed? Okay, well, I want the house vacuumed because I want it clean. Well, why do you want it clean? Well, I want it clean because it looks good. Okay, but why is that important to you? Because when it looks good, I feel good. Oh, so actually cleaning the house makes you feel good. Okay, so what if you were to look at things from the perspective of why do I want it? Not just because I have to. When we operate from the place of I have to, it is like, dragging your feet to go to do something because it doesn't feel exciting. It doesn't feel like something that is something that will make us feel good. But when we can find something about that task that will make us feel good, even if it is after it's done, you'll be more inclined to move forward and to do it. Okay? I hope that makes sense. The other big thing that I find as well is oftentimes we're out of balance. This happens to both men and women, but I do find it happens with women more. We are often coming from the place of, I have all this stuff to do, I have all this stuff at home, I have this stuff with the kids, and then I have work, and when's there time for me? Well, obviously, if you're coming from that perspective, you're out of balance. Many, many times, women, I have found, have put themselves second or last in their life. I can certainly identify with that in my own personal life. There was in relationships and with my children and with my work, I would often find myself at the end of the day doing, what the heck was that all about? What did I get out of that day that was for me? Well, you know what? One of the things that I did find is I was trying to get people to like me. Whether it is your relationships, whether it is your kids, I was trying to get them to like who I was. And by them liking who I was finding, or by trying to get them to like who I was finding that I was doing things to please them, not to please me. And how does that help me? Well, it doesn't help me, right? So it's very, very important that I'm doing things for me first, and then start with other people. So it's about balancing, doing things for yourself, and then moving over to helping them. Okay, so I believe we have a caller on the line. Dee Dee, I think it is, from Canada. Is she on the line there? Hello. Okay, this is interesting. Bear with me, guys. I'm trying to work this. Oh, hi, Dee Dee. Welcome to the call.
Hi. Nice to hear your voice online here.
Thank you. What is your question? Do you have a question for us today?
I do have a question. I'm wondering, you were talking a lot about fear.
Mm-hmm.
And you were saying something about, identifying what the fear is and then visualizing, and you said a lot of other things that I can't exactly retain right now. But
okay.
What if you're in a position, and a lot of people are in a position where you don't know what that fear is, you just know that you're scared?
Okay. So right now, Dee Dee, is there just something that you're afraid of, and it's just coming in as fear, and you can't see it, you can't even identify where it is?
Yeah, basically.
Okay. So one of the very basic things that I do when I'm working with clients is I start to look at, okay, so let's step back and pretend like you're in a helicopter looking at your life and kind of start looking at the different areas of your life. So you kind of go into a more logical place for a few minutes, okay? So you come out of the emotion for just a minute and you look at the different areas. So if you looked at your health, how is your health? Are you feeling strong? Are you feeling like you're doing things that, are good for you? Would you say yes or no to that?
Yeah, I would say yes.
Okay, so then that would be the area that you're likely not afraid of, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then move over to perhaps your career.
Mm-hmm.
Are you in a place now where your career is something that you're happy with or you're not? And sometimes for some people, they aren't necessarily working outside of the home, mm-hmm. but they are happy with where they're at. Their satisfaction level is good.
Right.
Okay? And then move over to money. Money is another big area. Relationships.
Mm-hmm. Intimate
relationships, family. And when you go through these different areas of your life, if something just even twigs in you, like, that just doesn't feel great right there, right? I can tell you there was a time when I had a friendship and it just didn't feel great. And I didn't know why I was in angst, just like you're talking about. And suddenly I started saying, well, that doesn't feel great. Mm-hmm. Kind of asking yourself that question, how is this area of my life feeling right now? Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely does. It sort of gives you a pointer of where to go and where to get started.
Right. So if you can, I often use the helicopter scenario, kind of come up in the helicopter, detach from your life for just a minute emotionally, because you can always come back to it, right? It's going to be there after you're done this exercise. And then when you do that, you're going to be able to come back in and go, okay, so now how is this feeling? Okay?
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for calling and for being my first caller. That's amazing.
Yeah. Well,
woohoo! Dee Dee from Canada. Well, call in again next week. I'll be back online. And hopefully no more technical
problems.
Great
to hear you. All right. Bye.
Okay, thank you so much. So that was a great question. You know, sometimes we're vibrating and we don't know what's going on. And sometimes it's difficult. You know, so one of the things that really pulls on people a lot is we isolate and we sit alone with our feelings and our emotions. And I can tell you that reaching out to someone, whether you reach out to a life coach like as myself, or you reach out to a counselor, but you reach out to a third party who is not emotionally connected to what's going on with you, you will better have a chance to figure things out. Okay? So we have Carol on the line. Go ahead, Carol.
Hi,
are you there with me?
Yep, I'm here.
Hi, Carol. Thanks for calling. Where are you calling from?
I'm near Toronto.
Oh, wonderful. Do you have a question for me today?
I do. How do I know if I'm really ready to make things better or if I'm just caught up on an impulse and setting myself up for another frustration or failure where I just slide back into my old ways?
Well, there's a really... You know, I understand what you're saying. It's like, do I want to, or am I going to get hurt again? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, tell me, Carol, how frustrated are you, or how dissatisfied are you with where you are today? On a scale of 1 to 10.
Maybe only a 7, really, I guess.
Okay. And so the really cool thing is that if you are here in a 7 and you continue to think about that and you experience experiences, you will either move, because change is constant, right? You will either move towards an 8 or towards a 6. Very rarely will you stay vibrating in the exact same level because change is constant. So if you use your emotions and how you're feeling about something as your guide, before you know it, you will get more messages of, well, yeah, this isn't really that big of a deal, or it really is a big deal. It's starting to frustrate me even more. Mm-hmm. Is there something more specific you're wanting to ask?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, so your emotions can really be a huge guide for you, Carol. And just pay attention to one of the questions that I often ask is, how am I feeling about this now? How does this feel? Is this something that I want? And the great thing is that you have the choice that if you choose to step forward into something, like let's use what I'm doing today, right? I step forward into this radio show, and if it's not something that's doing it for me, I have choice again, don't I?
Yeah,
this really isn't the thing for me, so I think I'm going to let this go, and I'm going to focus over in another direction. There really, truly is no failures because you're learning about what it is I like and what it is I don't like. And you get to choose again. You know, we make these things in our lives like the be and to all, my goodness. And this is supposed to be fun. This is supposed to be an experience, not a right and a wrong. So, you know, if it feels right at the moment to step forward, ask yourself this one question. What do I truly have to lose? Truly. And before you know it, you will be moving forward in this direction or another direction, and you'll know whether it's the right direction for you by how you're feeling about it. Okay?
Yep. Thanks.
Thank you, Carol. Okay, we've got 30 seconds before we're going to go to break, and I've got a couple other questions I want to go over at that time when we call back. But please, if you have more questions, call in or email in, and I will do my very, very best to answer your questions. And I hope you're enjoying the show, and I hope that you'll come back in next week. But until then, let's keep going, okay? I'm just reading a message from a dear friend. She said, your energy and passion is fantastic. Woohoo! I'm so so blessed to have so many wonderful people. So thank you very much for listening to date, and don't go away. We'll be right back, and we'll answer some more questions, okay? Thank you so much, and I think we're going to break now. Oh, welcome back, everyone. I'm so glad you're still here with me. You know, I was thinking about maybe giving you a few more hands-on techniques, because I find that that's what helps oftentimes for myself and for my clients is some basic hands-on techniques. It's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing, how do I work through things? And when Dee Dee was calling, we were talking more about fear, so I want to give you some tools to help you when you're in those moments of fear. Whether those moments of fear are just in your own mind, or whether you're in a situation where you're about to speak with someone that you don't like speaking to. Maybe your boss is coming up to talk to you and you're afraid that they might be saying something that's going to upset you, or you've had a fight with someone and you're just not ready to deal with it. How do you be in that moment? So one of the very first things, understand that you have choice. Okay? If you are not ready to speak to someone, or if something is upsetting you, you can say, could we talk about this later? I'm just really not feeling able to talk right now. Sometimes it's not easy to be able to do that with some people, but it takes you into a calmer place. I talked about what fear stands for. Remember, false evidence appearing real? Well, I want to tell you what HALT stands for. That's HALT. And this is something that I have used myself, both with my family and with, most especially with my children. You know, if they're listening, they're probably not going to be really pleased about this, but, you know, I teach what I know. So HALT stands for hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. If you are in a state of hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, it is best not to make a decision, because you maybe do not have all of the information, or you're not calm enough to make one that's going to best support you. I have a question here from Barb, and she says, I make choices, but the problem is that I seem to make a lot of decisions based on other people and not on what I want. How do I get through my head to start thinking that I matter too? And she wants to make others happy. Well, that again sounds like it's a woman who is putting other people first and herself second. So the first thing that I would strongly suggest is to start coming from a place of honesty of how do I feel. When we operate from I'm going to care about my children first, I'm going to care about my husband, my wife, my community first, then we often end up being resentful or overwhelmed or exhausted. And when we get into those places, evidence has shown that we very quickly can become sick, both physically and mentally sick. So it is so important to always be putting ourselves first. Not that you're making everybody else last, but you're listening to what works for you. One of my very first teachers was Dr. Wayne Dyer. Absolutely listening to Wayne and reading his books, and I've seen him live several times. And Wayne talks about the orange syndrome. So if you had an orange in your hand right now, so everybody imagine you've got an orange in your hand right now, and you squeeze the orange, what will come out? Well, people say to me, Christine, juice. And I say, what kind of juice? Well, orange juice. And, you know, are you sure it's not going to be apple juice? It's not going to be grapefruit juice? No, it's going to be orange juice. Okay, well, if you are walking around with anger, resentment inside of you, and somebody squeezes you, what's going to come out? If anger and resentment come out, you're not going to be in a loving relationship or build loving relationships if that's what's inside of you. So that's why it's so important that we come at this from a place of what makes us happy first. Because if we're doing the things that make us happy, we will be happier people to be with. And so doing things that make us feel good and following what's important to us will actually lead to a better relationship and a better outcome for everyone. Does that make sense? I hope it does, because I can tell you that when I come at things from what is going to work for me first and other people second,
the things have just moved forward tremendously. You know, I'm from a very big family. I'm the 9th of 10 kids, and I was an aunt when I was 8 years old, and, you know, there was always lots of people around, and I always felt like I wanted everybody to pay attention to me. I wanted people to love me. That's what we all want, right? So I remember babysitting for my sisters, and I wouldn't just babysit, and the kids wouldn't just do something fun, but, you know, they'd come home and the dishes would be done. And then the next time I babysat, well, the dishes would be done, the laundry would be folded. I mean, they loved me babysitting, but it got to the point where I couldn't make them happier because I was always looking to do more, and eventually it's not going to happen. And I needed to do what was good for me, and then I was going to learn to be happy with who I was. When we are looking to other people to make us happy first, we are going to be disappointed again and again. So come back to yourself. What is it that makes me happy? And understand that your happiness can lead to happier relationships. And each and every person, whether it's your boss or it's your kids or it's the neighbors, they deserve to do what makes them happy too. It's, you know, don't do things to please other people, but if you're doing something that makes them happy too, then it's a bonus. You know, I have girlfriends, and they may call up and they may say, hey, do you want to go do this? And I'll say, no, I don't feel like it. But you go and do it, and you have fun, and I'll go and do what I want, and we'll have fun, and we'll get together again. Who wants to be with someone that isn't happy doing what they're doing? I don't want to do that, and I certainly don't want to be in a relationship with someone, you know, whether it's for 15 minutes or it's for an entire evening or a lifetime, where that person's not happy. You know, you really, really do deserve to be happy, and you have the power in making those choices. So take baby steps. If today you made a choice, and I'm sending this out to Barb and all the other women that could identify with Barb's question, if today you make a choice about making yourself happy, whether, you know, it's saying no to helping with the community fair, and instead you're going to spend an hour a day just going for a walk and getting grounded, if that will make you feel good, then you should do that. And when you have done that, when you have done things that have made you feel happy, and then you come to a relationship or you come to the community to volunteer or you're coming back to helping someone, you are going to come back happier and more inclined to want to do it and to be there out of joy, not out of obligation or resentment. So understand that as you make these steps, you can move forward in your life, and other people will begin to see, hey, what's going on with that girl? I can remember people looking at me and saying, what happened to you? You're so happy. Well, it was when I started to do things for me, not out of spite for other people, but for me first. That is really a huge, huge key. So a couple of techniques that I want to teach you is when you're in the moment of being fearful or being anxious is to, number one, as I said, can we have this conversation later? If you can't have the conversation later, you might even just say, can you just excuse me for a minute? I just need to go to the washroom. And when you go to the washroom, I want to teach you a breathing technique. Now, whether you meditate or not, this is a great breathing technique that can help you very, very quickly. What you want to do is just take on 4 counts. Breathe in 4, hold for 4, breathe out hard for 4, and pause for 4. My very first client taught me a saying that goes along with that breathing that she actually learned from her son's daycare, and it is smell the flowers, blow out the candles. So when you are imagining smelling those flowers, you might want to even imagine a color like the color white. Breathe it in. Oh, and you fill yourself with nice white light. And when you're breathing out, breathe out the anxiety. Doing that 3 times in a row will very instantly ground you and bring you back down out of your fear. Even if it's just for a few short minutes, it will begin to ground you. And that is so important. Your breath gives you more power than you can possibly know. When you're sick, when you're crying, what do? We take very, very short breaths, and we begin to feel out of control. If you want to begin a new step in that area and get more in control of how you're feeling, and that's the only control you have, right? You don't have control over other people, only over yourself. The breathing techniques can be miraculous. I often will do the breathing techniques when I'm first waking up in the morning, just to kind of center myself. You can do these breathing techniques when you're sitting at a stoplight. Imagine how many good breaths you can get when you're breathing just at a stoplight if you do a lot of driving, when you are in an anxious moment, or when you just need to clear your mind of all of the life's busyness. Stop. Take 2 minutes just to breathe, and you will begin to see one step at a time how that breath is grounding you. It really isn't that difficult, and before you know it, you're going to be using this all the time. And you're going to, this is something that I've taught my children, and my daughter, she uses it a great deal. If you have children who are in a high school or in day school and they're feeling anxious or they're feeling a little overwhelmed, teach them that breathing technique. That will give them power. And before they know it, they'll feel like they have a little bit more of control of what's going on. Breathing is great for everyone, so please put this into your daily practices. So that's one technique. Now, we're going to go to break very shortly. I'm going to take a couple more calls before we're going to conclude today, but please, the other thing that I want to share with you is take some time, especially if the weather's beautiful, go out in nature. If you can sit in your garden or go for a walk in the woods, even just go and sit by a tree and breathe. It will ground you very, very quickly. And then you can visit this fear or these areas of dissatisfaction where you're feeling not pleased. You'll be able to approach these with a clearer mind. Okay? So we're going to go to break, and when we come back, we're going to talk to Sandy, who's calling from Canada. We'll take her first call and any other questions that we've got coming in. Okay, so we're going to go to break now, and we'll talk soon. Okay, bye. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. So happy you're still with me. This is awesome. Okay, so we have Sandy waiting on the line with a question. Are you there, Sandy?
I am.
Excellent. Thank you for calling. So what's your question today?
Well, I've actually been listening to you throughout the show so far, and there's been a lot of great questions, and just your answers to some of the questions that were emailed in so far have been really helpful. Where I'm sitting actually is what do you do when you feel like you're going around in the same circle? Like, I'm learning, but it seems like, I'm tripping over the same rug.
You're tripping over the same rug.
Yeah, that bump in the rug that you try and pretend's not there, but okay, I think I'm learning the lessons as I go, but that familiar bump in the rug keeps popping up in front of my face. Like, I don't know if I've missed a lesson or if I need to relearn a lesson because I forgot it.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? This is something that I say all the time, and I know that this is true for me, and I'm sure many of the listeners can identify, is our lessons often need to repeat until we thoroughly learn the lesson. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Even though you seem to, or you think that you've got it the last time, but...
Say that again?
Even sometimes I think I have it the last time, and yet it periodically comes back and bites me.
Right. Well, can you be specific? Are you comfortable being specific with it?
Well, just relationships and whatnot, and I try to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Strong within myself and my boundaries, and it might be a boundary issue. Mm-hmm. And maybe, those boundaries were crossed in a different way this time, and that might be an issue, like what's different about it this time.
Right. Right.
Yeah, it just seems like I've got people invading my boundaries again. And
right. Well, It sounds to me, Sandy, like it's a matter of tweaking.
Okay.
Sometimes it's like learning. Again, let's go back to the child learning to walk. Well, you might begin to walk as a child and you're holding on to the tables and so on, and you think you got it, and then you let go of the table. And then you have to learn a little bit more. And then when the child wants to begin to run, well, now they're tripping over their feet, like you said, and so they need to learn how to pick their feet up a little bit differently. So in your lessons in learning, and boundaries is a big, great lesson to learn, is oftentimes you do need to feel what works for you and what doesn't. So if you're in relationship with someone and there's a boundary issue, you've been in a dance with that person, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you imagine yourself dancing, and that you've always done what you've done, and that person has always responded in a certain way. So in other words, if when they've said, will you do this for me, and you've always said yes, and then suddenly you think, well, this isn't feeling comfortable for me, I need to do what makes me happy, and then suddenly you say, no, I'm not going to do that. Well, they're going to respond like, what do you mean? And there's going to be a challenge, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
And as you practice that, and then you come from the place of loving yourself and not being angry with them, and you say, honey, I'd love to do that for you, but it really doesn't feel right for me right now. I need to do this for me.
Okay, I could see where that would be. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right? So it's kind of like a pendulum, Sandy, if you think of it. You've always been way over on the left with maybe putting other people first or letting them cross a lot of boundaries with you, and then you swing all the way over to the right. Well, it's learning to be balancing with that. And the blessing, and I know it seems like a stretch, but the blessing in actually having lessons repeat is we learn to really fine-tune them. And as you continue to just allow the lessons to come, and you just say to yourself, and this is what I say to myself often, well, I guess I haven't thoroughly learned that lesson yet. I guess there's a little bit more that I need to learn, and I don't put resistance to it, but I go, okay, well, here I am again. I'm going to learn this lesson again, and what else is there that I need to know? And then I get easier with it and easier with it, and before you know it, when that comes up, it just rolls off your tongue like nothing. Like, I'm sure, if you have no physical problems and you're able to walk, you don't even think about walking today, right, Sandy?
That's correct, yeah. And that makes perfect sense, because my next question to you was going to be, okay, then how do you know you got it? But, that pretty much answers it, what you've just said.
Yeah, and you might find, Sandy, that you might need a little checkup on that lesson, maybe 4 or 5 years down the line, maybe 10 years. Mm-hmm. It may show up again, and again, just say, oh, I guess there's a little bit more that I need to learn. So thank you so much for calling, Sandy. We're just about ready to close out the show. I so appreciate your question, and I really hope that that's helped.
It has. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, I really want to thank everyone for being with me today, and one of the things that I'd like to share with you is a book that I'd highly recommend that has helped me on my path, and it's by an amazing woman. Her name is Louise Hay, and the book is called You Can Heal Your Life. The great thing I like about this book, especially if you are a busy person in your life and you're kind of running here and there and you're not a huge reader, is the lessons are only 3 or 4 pages long. So you can take a little bit of information and kind of tuck it in under your arm for the day and move forward with it. And it's an amazing book. You can find this on my website at inspiredchoices.ca, and I have a lot of other choice books there too that have helped me on my path, and I hope you find them interesting. A couple of things that I want to let you know is next week we'll be on the same time, and I really hope you'll come back and listen. And what we're going to be talking about next week is going to follow up on the show today, and we're going to be talking about change your words and change your experience. You really have more power with your words than you know, and I want to start teaching you and sharing with you what has worked for me, and I hope that it truly will work for you. So that's just a little bit of what's going on next week. We've got lots of questions, and I'm sorry if I didn't get to everybody's questions today. I'm so grateful for you being on this journey with me and all the amazing questions. Wherever you are, please know you're supposed to be there. You're in the right place. Nothing is wrong. And always remember that you are naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. You are not broken, and you do not need to be fixed. You're just a child learning something new. We are all learning all of the time, and we're never supposed to be perfect or get it right. It's okay. This is how we learn. I'm looking at my calendar, and it's amazing. It says, my life is a party to be experienced and shared with everyone I know. And ta-da! Here I am, sharing it with you. Whoo! It's emotional again for me. Anyways, we're just about ready to sign off, and the last thing I want to leave you with is, remember, you always have a choice. Always. And if you're not ready to make a choice, just sit and breathe and find something, even if it's just a glass of water, to be grateful for. Thank you so much. Have an amazing week, and I can't wait to hear from you. If you want to contact me directly, the links are on Voice America website or on my website, and I really, really look forward to hearing from you. Thank you, and God bless to everyone. Bye now.